I feel like I've been subjecting you guys to a whole lot of body horror, so I figured it was time for a well-deserved break from all the ooey, gooey, and gory. At least partially because, you're never really off the hook here. By the way, this is my new son, Philip. Your new brother. And I feel like he fits into the haunted family pretty nicely. Anywho, with today's movie Locked, it actually came out in 2025, and I heard absolutely nothing about it, so I guess the marketing was kind of abysmal. Despite the fact that the two main stars of this movie are Bill Skarsgard and Anthony Hopkins. And it was directed by Sam Raimi. So where has this movie been hiding? Or maybe it's just been hiding from me. Us. But I think you guys are gonna like it. It's a fresh addition to the horror thriller genre, and it's got quite a lot of that comfy, cozy claustrophobia. Woo. Our main man, Eddie Barish, is currently jobless and severely hurting for money. Especially since he needs to provide for his young daughter Sarah, despite off the bat already giving hella deadbeat dad vibes, and he also needs to somehow afford a very pricey part for his van, so he can work. So Eddie over here undertakes a tried and true, no frills attached, method to making some money. Stealing. Stealing from people's cars. And Eddie thinks he's hit the absolute jackpot when he spots an unattended luxury SUV just sitting out there in the open, practically begging to be burglarized. And to his utter astonishment, the car is actually unlocked. Wow. A blessing from above. It truly is Eddie's lucky day. He wastes no time at all in hurriedly searching through the vehicle for anything of value, but he doesn't end up finding all too much, or really anything. So he decides to cut his scavengery right there. Except when he goes to try and exit the vehicle, he discovers that it's now locked, and he is currently now locked inside it. He is now trapped inside this luxury SUV. Like a rat in a trap, except there is no cheese in sight. Even the windows prove to be impenetrable. As Eddie is struggling to figure out a panicked, spur-of-the-moment escape route, a call pops up on the car's fancy-pantsy touchscreen device system under the name Answer Me. But instead of answering said mystery call, Eddie instead hones his attention on trying to smash a tire iron through the back window. But even then, it does not budge. And neither does the mystery caller, given the tablet keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. But Eddie's focus remains solely on finding a way to break out. Though, unfortunately for him, it appears this car has been built as somewhat of a reverse fortress, and he can't find a single way of escape. It's impenetrable from the inside out, and to the point where Eddie's phone doesn't even receive service while he's inside the vehicle. Finally acquiescing to the incessant ringing, Eddie tentatively answers the call, and is met with the bubbly, merry voice of an Englishman, who is apparently the owner of the car. Eddie is not too overjoyed to hear that this is the man currently trapping him in said car, and tells the fine gent to go F himself. After which Eddie promptly receives an electric shock from the seat. So this mystery Englishman has really got the car all rigged up and ready to go, ready for the fun to begin, including having multiple hidden cameras strewn throughout the inside of the car, so he gets a 360 view of his little Eddie intruder. Now that the caller has Eddie's undivided attention, by persuasion of electric volts, he explains to Eddie that this car of his has been broken into 6 times before, now 7, without a single arrest or anything done about it. But as the caller continues to monologue about this, Eddie decides he's not really in the mood for introductions and whips out his gun, shooting at the impenetrable window, only to have the bullet ricochet back into his leg. Didn't think that one through, now did we, Eddie? And with Eddie's subsequent cries of pain, we learn that the car is not only bulletproof, but soundproof. And also hella tinted. So Eddie is hella screwed. This English chap, who is apparently named William, really knows what he's doing, as he goes on to explain. As William is explaining to Eddie how souped up and impenetrable he's made this car, Eddie all the while is pleading and yelling at William that he needs a hospital, he needs a doctor for this gunshot wound, he's gonna bleed out, ugh. And when Eddie embarks on another round of backtalk to Sir William, he's met with another electric shock. Because William over here will not tolerate that behavior, nor that language. Now that Eddie has been quieted and is listening once again, William tells him that his goal in trapping Eddie here is so that Eddie can understand the pain he's caused him, and for Eddie to get to the point of being actually truly sorry for breaking into his car, and for Eddie to experience the consequences of his actions, of course. But I mean, by this point, Eddie's already been force-fed quite a few sips of his own medicine already, so... But that's not enough to William. They've only just begun. After Eddie eventually passes out from blood loss, he awakens hours later. Unfortunately, still trapped in the car, but with his arm and leg stitched up and bandaged, because he also happened to slice his arm while he was trying to escape earlier. So while Eddie was unconscious, he had a bit of a visitor. But now Eddie is good as new. So William can go back to his enactment of justice. The next day, William calls up his passenger Princess Eddie once again, revealing he doesn't actually need Eddie to manually answer the call. William can just send the call through and answer it himself, but he wants Eddie to be respectful and compliant and answer when he calls. And despite Eddie lamenting how thirsty and hungry he's become, William heedlessly goes on with his monologue, about to reveal something about his daughter and his daughter's condo, when Eddie interrupts his story to yell out a string of curse words at him, which of course is promptly met with another shock. Because William is a refined, classy gent, and he strongly dislikes vulgarity. Eddie. And boy oh boy does Eddie have a mouth on him. But this time, receiving another round of shocks only sends Eddie into a cussing tirade, forcing William to have to undertake harsher methods of punishment. William then manually turns the AC down to the lowest, iciest setting possible, and even worse, begins playing an abrasive yodeling track at full volume, and on repeat. And though Eddie tries to nonchalantly play off the severity of this pathetic punishment, the song starts driving him bonkers in no time at all. Betty wishes he was back in that sewer drain by this point, because I don't know about you guys, but loud, constant noises, it actually drives me insane. I feel like loud, constant music would be a form of torture eventually. By nightfall, Eddie is completely frozen, and his brain completely fried by that constant ear-piercing yodeling. But it finally stops after being interrupted by another incoming call from William. A little more humbled by this point, and a tad more inclined to obedience, Eddie actually answers the incoming call, apologizing for cursing earlier. Because William got him. He broke him down. You win, William. And although William has said nothing so far, and says nothing in response to the apology, the glacial AC is then switched off as well. A win is a win. William is slowly but surely and very steadily breaking Eddie down into compliance. The next day proceeds in the same fashion. No food, no water, and definitely no way out. And the mocking cruelty of Eddie's crazy amount of thirst is that it's been raining on and off the whole time he's been trapped in the car. So he just has to watch all the raindrops running down the windshield. When Eddie receives another phone call, William taunting him about his hunger and thirst the whole time, Eddie looks out the window to notice a shady-looking man up on the balcony of a nearby overlooking apartment building, and this distant man appears to be on the phone. So this dude very well might be his captor, watching him from above. Spooky. In William's continuing diatribe, William reveals that he's actually dying of prostate cancer, with only about 4 months to live. So he wants to enact at least a little bit of justice before he's gone. And he doesn't have to worry about any consequences from it. He has nothing to lose. William then goes on to explain his standpoint that there's no justice anywhere anymore, because he says that the entire judicial system has just lost its power. His stance is that criminals are never charged for their crimes, and when they are, it's usually a little slap on the wrist, especially in the rundown city in which they live. So William has decided to blaze his own path through justice. And this reminded me so much of To Catch a Predator. I watched that show religiously, and what always bothered me so much is that even after all these predators are caught with all the evidence that they were preying on children, a lot of them didn't even go to prison. Or some would get like a month with community service. So I think William needs to team up with Chris Hansen over here. Anywho, when Eddie gets a chance to speak, he tells William that this is not justice, okay? It's flat out plain old cruelty, trapping him in this car for days on end without food and water. But William assures him that he's getting off pretty easy, especially compared to how other countries would treat a thief. Especially for repeat offenders, which William is sure Eddie is. It seems that Eddie has somewhat of a criminal record that he doesn't want to divulge to William here, furthering William's point. But William insists that Eddie gives him his full name and social security number so that William can check it out for himself. But of course Eddie refuses, because he says it's not fair because the system is rigged against him. They then get into a heated discussion about rich people versus poor people, with Eddie asserting that William deserves to be stolen from because William is so rich, and that he's just been handed everything in life. But William quickly nips that in the bud and debunks that, by explaining how he's entirely self-made by a lifetime of hard work and sacrifices, and that he started from the bottom just like Eddie. After a war of words and heated talking points, William dips and hangs up, leaving Eddie alone once again with the beautiful soul-touching, eardrum-scraping melodies of yodeling. And even as impressive as yodeling is, I think in that situation it would absolutely drive you insane. Right? Not just me. Except this time, William manually dials the temperature up in the opposite direction. Piping hot. All you Bill Skarsgard thirsters, eat it up, drink it up. This scene is for you. Now cooking alive and begging for even a tiny drop of rain, while still being bombarded by the constant yodeling ear assault, Eddie gets so thirsty that even the bottle of his own pee starts to look tempting. Damn. But he cannot bring himself to do it. At least not yet. At the ends of his wits, hungry and thirsty beyond all belief and sweltering to death, he decides to surrender and wave the white flag, complying to William's prior request and giving William his full name, Eddie Barish, and his social security number. So now William can access Eddie's rap sheet and criminal history. Once Eddie surrenders this information, William tells him that he actually hid a water bottle under the passenger seat while Eddie was passed out that one time and William stitched him up. So Eddie races over to it and guzzles it down in one go. Afterward, after finally getting his thirst quenched a little bit, when Eddie's trying to get some shut-eye, Eddie remembers the scratch tickets in his coat pocket that he bought right before he kidnapped himself, or got himself kidnapped in the car. Car-napped. Scratching off one of the tickets to realize the card is actually a $500 winner, which is even more than the amount of money he needed for that van part earlier. If only he'd finished scratching this ticket when he got it, he wouldn't have felt the need to go around stealing from cars, and could have avoided this situation entirely. Womp womp. Eddie ends up getting to the point of actually giving William a sincere, heartfelt apology for what he did, and although William just kind of laughs the apology off, he rewards Eddie with a cookie he actually hid in the automatic glove box. Of course, Eddie rushes over to it and starts scarfing it down, but while he's scarfing, he notices some exposed wiring inside said glove compartment, and right before it closes. So now Eddie has hatched an idea. And I'm not really sure what that wiring does, but Eddie is. So, testing to ensure he's not currently being monitored, since William had to leave mid-call to answer another, Eddie subtly rips open the underbelly of the glove box and snaps a photo inside with his phone to see what he's working with. Eddie knows a little something about cars, so the wires and doohickeys in the picture he's closely examining probably make a lot more sense to him than they do to me, or maybe to us. I don't know. I have an electric scooter. But while Eddie's fiddling around with it, William unfortunately stops in to check the cameras right then, and sends a few electric shocks Eddie's way. Bad dog, bad! Keep your hands where I can see them, Eddie. Keep your hands where I can see them, Eddie. No. With no other options and not really wanting to get shocked again, Eddie obeys, opting to instead subtly use his toe to try and release whatever switch he was attempting to before, all while remaining as nonchalant as possible. Some might say demure. And between his attempts to secretly, subtly release the switch, his thirst finally drives him to the point, of having to drink his own pee. Desperate times, I guess. Desperate times. Later that night, as Eddie is aimlessly toying with the controls, the car actually turns on, and Eddie's able to start driving it. But not really. William was just messing with him. But now William has manually taken over the wheel, taking Eddie on somewhat of a guided tour of the ruined, degenerate, and now dangerous city. The city William once used to love. William then speeds him over to the next destination he has in mind, a graffitied back alley where a dude is being beaten up. Home sweet home, Eddie. I'm sure you're very familiar with this. And because William is a shit stirrer, he puts on the high beams and starts honking at the thugs to draw them over, Eddie watching helplessly from inside the car. And after William laments how the police are overrun and these thugs know that the police won't do anything about what they're doing, William puts the pedal to the metal and actually runs one of them over. And to Eddie's horror, he ends up chasing down the other thug and squashing him against a fence, killing him. William's justification for it being, if no one else has to follow societal rules and law, why should I have to? Following a bout of rough and reckless driving that pinballs Eddie all around the car, Eddie ends up bonking his head in the chaos and subsequently blacks out, waking up the next morning to another call from William, while the car is still driving Eddie around. William lets him know that he did indeed check his court records, and learned that Eddie not only has a rap sheet, but that he still owes 2 years of unpaid child support to his ex-girlfriend for his daughter Sarah. Deadbeat dad energy! And to rub some more salt into the wound, William drives Eddie over to his daughter Sarah's school, where she once again has to scoot home on her own because Eddie is not there to pick her up. Again. Except this time he has, an excuse. But it's happened so many times before that Sarah is used to it. He's been absent in her life enough that he's been gone 3 or 4 days by this point, and it's nothing new to Sarah or her mom. It's raising no red flags. And because William really wants to drive home his lesson, drill it deeply into Eddie's emotions, he threatens to hit Sarah with the car, even beginning to speed after her, while Eddie's inside the car begging for him to stop and putting a gun to his head and threatening he'll kill himself if he doesn't stop chasing his daughter. But William ends up swerving and dodging Sarah last second, after Eddie actually pulls the trigger. But William was sure to empty the gun when he stitched up Eddie's leg a few days prior. Master of mind games over here. How bored and jaded and miserable of a person do you need to be? Because his daughter is completely innocent to this situation. What? It's not her fault her dad's a deadbeat car thief. So William's proving to be more psycho than anything else. I don't think he cares so much about the enactment of justice. He just kind of wants the playground for his psychotic fantasies to play out. Because William is determined to teach Eddie every lesson in the book. Come hell or high water. But by this point, Eddie has had enough. And despite William frying him with an inhumane amount of voltage, Eddie goes around the car ripping out the cameras and smashing the control center, completely wigging out. Valid crash out though, holy hell. Especially after William chased down and terrified his daughter Sarah, who is innocent here, hello? But the car continues on driving. William is not done with him yet. In complete radio silence, because Eddie smashed all the car's communication devices to pieces, William pilots the car to a quiet waterfront lookout spot where the man, the myth, the legend, William/Anthony Hopkins, is there waiting for him. So they can finally meet face to face. After a somewhat rocky person-to-person introduction, followed by some much-needed air spray, William commands Eddie to zip tie himself to the seat bar by persuasion of some more voltage, because he still has his phone in his hand, his torture device, before William himself gets in the driver's seat, bragging about his ingenious handiwork. He loads Eddie's gun once again and allows Eddie a quick puff of a blunt, just like good old pals do. After feeding his captive buddy some gummy worms, he puts the car in drive, embarking them on a little journey to a surprise location. When Eddie starts probing a little too close to home about William's own daughter that he made recurring yet very brief mentions of, it seems like a little bit of a touchy subject, and William responds with a few heartfelt brake checks. Bam! Bam! So Eddie knows he's just found and hit the right nerve, the right sensitive spot. So of course, he keeps pressing into it. Because Eddie has once again secretly started working his toe against that one button switch thing, so he wants to keep William talking and distracted. And William falls face first into it. After some more of Eddie's prodding, William reveals that not only were he and his daughter robbed at gunpoint in their own home by some burglarizing lowlifes years back, those burglarizing scumbags also ended up shooting his daughter Emma in the neck in the process. And unfortunately, it killed her. So ever since then, he's had a thirst for revenge against those bottom-dwelling criminal types, and those who see themselves above the law and above justice. Eddie keeps riling William up and getting him angrier and angrier, until Eddie is finally able to release the switch he's been desperately trying to maneuver this whole time. And it's apparently the car's kill switch. Uh-oh. Given they're going pretty damn fast on some pretty damn treacherous roads when Eddie releases it, the car continues careening forward with no way to control it or stop it, so they end up flying off the edge of a cliff. William accidentally firing off a round in the tumbling chaos that ends up ricocheting off the impenetrable windows and into his back, before the car is able to plunge to a stop. Both of them have majorly had their marbles knocked around, but both of them are still alive. William just barely. Eddie manages to break his hands free from the zip ties just as William awakens and grabs for the gun, and then Eddie starts beating the ever-living crap out of him in the struggle for the weapon. And when Eddie finally gets hold of the gun and is about to shoot William, Eddie's phone starts ringing, and it's his daughter. He hurriedly answers and tearfully assures her that he's okay. His voice sounds like he's just being dragged through hell, but he's fine, Daddy's fine. Promising her that for sure this time, he will be there to pick her up from school that day at their designated pickup time. He promises. When Eddie ends the call, he demands William finally open the doors and end this, since the car engine's now on fire, but with a raspy, smug, "That was fun, Eddie. Lots of fun." William dies right then and there, leaving Eddie to scramble for a way out entirely on his own. Luckily for Eddie, in the hellacious crash, the windows got pretty damaged, so right before the car fully goes up in flame, Eddie is able to use that same tire iron to smash his way out, finally being able to free himself from his mobile prison. Luxury SUV edition. He then starts limping toward the main road and finds someone to take him back into town, making it back to the car shop that has his defunct van, with just enough time to sell said van to the car shop and buy one of the worker's daughter's bikes that he was selling, so that Eddie's able to make it to his daughter's school pickup on time. At long last. And it's a tearful reunion for him, especially as he realizes how deadbeat of a dad he's actually been to her. So perhaps, just maybe, William accidentally ended up doing some good here. And then it cuts to black. Thus it ends. This is another movie I wish I'd seen in theaters, but like I said, I didn't even know about it until I just randomly happened across it on a streaming platform. I think the movie should have got at least a little more hype than it did. I mean, it's got Bill Skarsgard and Anthony Hopkins. People go feral for that. It's actually a decent movie, and it's definitely slept on for some reason. And it's a little bit of a reprieve from the constant guts and gore that I've been inflicting upon you. So I hope you liked it, and if you want to watch it yourself, I think it's on Hulu. But screw Hulu and their constant bombardment of ads. Oh! Anyway, tangent aside, let me know what you thought, and let me know what you think about Philip. And I think that name just fits him perfectly. Don't you?